Well, howdy, howdy, howdy to you all y'all. I think we've included everyone, including Uber Tuber Rubers and Uber Tuber Reds. This is really becoming grand here. Short talk in the trailer with an old guy. I wonder who that would be. Good to see you again. Come on in and have a seat. I got yet another unpaid sponsor. It's probably 12:20, and I've decided, well, that's going to be my lunch today. I got all dressed up today. It's a Saturday. You can tell because I'm wearing a shirt with buttons, and the buttons are even buttoned. So we're playing hardball right here. I went down today. The church had some kind of, I guess you call it a revitalization kind of weekend, something. In a Baptist church, I think they would just call it a revival, okay, and be done with it. But we're Presbyterians, and we got to make things a little different there. I'm gonna put that thing out. Sometimes you know these things, they're probably bad for you. Sometimes they begin to turn my stomach, and I thought, hey, take a hint, big guy. It's a Saturday No, it's a Saturday afternoon. Now, you know that what that means in late April is check the schedule. Yep, the Aggies are playing ball this afternoon, so I might file a video or two from the ballpark. And if you don't care about that stuff, just skip them when they come by. How hard was that? I love baseball, and frankly, if you don't, I wonder if you're even human. Now, baseball is a great game. And if you don't love it, well, there's reasons for that. I went down to the thing, and it's based upon a book, which, of course, I haven't seen or read. I think it's called From Embers to Flame. The premise being that if you even have embers and they're still alive, glowing, then all you got to do is fan them a little bit, and they'll burst back into flame. Think of that as a kind of a spiritual paradigm. Okay, well, I guess I kind of walked into this thing thinking, well, let's face it, Presbyterians are not the go-to community when you want to hear about zeal and enthusiasm and being fired up. You got the wrong gang of folks there. In fact, the Presbyterians jokingly refer to themselves, and I guess I have too, as the frozen chosen. Kind of like emotional ice cubes or something like that. Well, it isn't quite that bad. You'll be glad to know. I'm not trying to downplay or anybody's faith or anyone's denominationalism. But if this was a seminar on how to be zealous about the gospel, well, here I am. I pulled out of there. They were serving sandwiches. Probably they're still up there serving sandwiches, and there was going to be a Q&A, and I thought, well, I want no part of that. So I said, here's the reasonable thing. I went and deposited my paycheck yesterday from the company. And this is weird, trying to get used again to going back to the week by week, deposit it in the machine. For years now, I was on, what do you call it, direct deposit. And I kind of got lazy and got used to it. So I don't even bother trying to go up to the bank on a Friday afternoon because that area up there where Telshore meets Amador, ugh. The traffic in that area is just nuts. And so I think there's altogether too many cars on the road these days. Does that make me eco-green? I hope not. I just don't like crowds. But anyway, just wanted to kind of give you an update, as it were. I'm glad to hear that my doom and dire perceptions yesterday about the war in Iran and Israel has not blown up yet into a full-tilt bozo conflict. Iran is apparently showing a side that I hadn't heard of. What I heard last weekend was that if Israel dares to come in and actually start assaulting targets within the country of Iran proper, then all bonds are released, every dog is loosed, and we're coming after you. Well, that's the way they sounded. Now all of a sudden they're a little more roundabout. And according to the state-run media that they have over there, I guess that would be the equivalent of CNN, but they speak Farsi or something. They were showing an area where some of the explosions went off, and here was the official take, was that the Iranian news media was announcing, well, there was these explosions that went off. Wouldn't it be nice to know where they came from or why? Talk about a mystery, bye, gotta go. Instead of pointing the finger right back at Israel and say, wait a minute. And so I'm glad that the cooler heads have prevailed and we're not in the middle of a firefight, which could end up with people hurling nukes around. That sounds like a really bad idea, even in my little mind here. But I just wanted to chit chat with you some today and rejoice. It's a Saturday. That means it's Aggie baseball, and I like to do stuff like that. It kind of reminds me of the idea of nostalgia. We all kind of long for the good old days when things were normal and the wheels weren't falling off of culture as we view it. As the world continues to turn, we've got to be the soldiers of the cross. Okay, so we've got to be zealous. We've got to be in love with Jesus. And one of the things, I mean, I could do a really cynical summary of what we witnessed this morning, and I don't want to go there. I'm not going to bad talk this guy, and it's not like anything he said was truly objectionable. But there was one thing that kind of perked up my ear. He affirmed that the gospel itself is fundamentally a proposition. So I looked up the word when I got home because I didn't have this phone with me at that time. A proposition. Well, a proposition could be a firm, authoritative assertion. I think that would be the side I would tend to fall down on. A firm presentation of an authority. In other words, now hear this. This is the shape of reality. The covenant of grace was founded between who? The Father and the Son. And contractually, they came up with this thing, he who is God, to satisfy justice in that your chief enemy in this world, since you were born and you're breathing currently, is your maker. And it's on legitimate grounds of grievance on his part. We tend to think of the fundamental error in Adam as being ethical and moral, which there's a huge error there. Adam went off the rails entirely in terms of his ethics, that's for sure. But, and so did we, by the way. I tell people I was conceived in iniquity, and when I was born, I proceeded to make things worse. That's the way a lot of our efforts are. We try and try and try, and really it's just adding fuel to the fire. And so in terms of the propositional angle, I would go for an assertion. The assertion is that Jesus Christ himself has essentially stepped off of the throne of the Most High. God himself entered his own creation in the form of being united to mankind in flesh, being knit together in his mother's womb supernaturally. This one emerged as a full tilt true blue human and also fully divine at the same time. This is news, and what that news heralds is that the kingdom which we've been awaiting, the kingdom in which evil is put away and the righteous flourish, that kingdom, that domain has commenced. And in light of that, we rethink everything. We go back and re-examine. So it's more than simply a moral issue. There's the transcendental issue in terms of who or what it is that transcends and goes beyond what we call the real. Look around, you see a world you're standing on, right? You can go dig it up, it's dirt. You look above, there's a sky, there's clouds, there's stars, and there's a vast, vast gulf up there, an expanse that exceeds really our ability to imagine. This was all the handiwork of the great king. But in the center of all of that creation enters something called a new creation, the renewal, the resurrection, really, of the dead. The blind are given sight in him, and the simple are taught, and healing proceeds into the people. So in other words, it is not merely a proposition, it's an announcement. Like the captain gets on the radio, the loudspeaker on the boat. Now hear this. All hands. This is the captain speaking. In other words, it's a voice that's authoritative, and it's a voice that he has vouchsafed. Now, yes, it is linked up with the Bible, and yes, it is linked up that we would be bound obliged, really, to love God. But if I tell you that your real problem is that you really don't love God, say, as strongly as you perhaps ought to, and you're certainly not loving people in the way that he commands exclusively. You're not doing that all the time. And that you're not at peace, and you really should be. And therefore you should pray. Yeah, that's okay as a kind of a general advice, but there's no good news in it. Where's the news, man? And so I just thought the news is that he's the new thing. He's the one who draws our attention. Our boast is of Jesus Christ. It's not of some abstraction called, I found a godly path to navigate life by. And I have now a set of rules, but that's what I was hoping was not going to happen, and thank goodness it didn't. In other words, an idea of a weekend of renewal, or kind of think of a men's retreat perhaps, or a women's retreat, where we're going to think about spiritual stuff and kind of rekindle the flame of the fire of the Spirit and stuff like that. There's a whole gang of lingo linked up with this. But the basic question is that either it matters to you personally or it doesn't. And if it doesn't really matter to you, you can't really effectively pretend that it does and really hope to fool anybody. Well, you can fool a few people. But no, when he touches you, it's real. And what our testimony is, we're crowing about his goodness. We're crowing about his kindness. We're bragging him up. He's the best thing ever. And he's not a thing. He's the author, the builder of all things. And he gives us life. He gives us breath. And why? So that we can look back at him and recognize the one who is above and within us and ahead of us. He's covered our past. He's carrying us in his hand, and he has a future for us. The kingdom has arrived. It is at hand. How can you tell? The king himself showed up. The gospel message is good news. And you should be fired up about it, because it's really life-changing. I tell you, I'm not the same man that I was, and thank God for that, but far from perfect. The question is has the healing begun? When you have a patient, now this is a bad example, but I'm making it up as I go, so I get to get away with it. When you have a patient who's in a coma, the family they're terrified, they're deeply concerned, they're worried. And there might come a day, and we pray for those days, where you come into the room, your mother or your sister or your dad, whoever it is, in comatose, and you say, "Mom, I'm here. If you can hear me, squeeze my finger." And you put your finger in her hand. Boom, gotcha. Or an eye blink in response. Yes, it's not much. It's not cartwheels. It's not high wire trapeze work. It's the very first steps. But life is coming back. The patient is responding. They know where they're at, and they know they're in the hands of the good doctor, the physician. They called him the great physician. And he heals what ails you. And what ails you is mostly in your soul, isn't it? Everyone's just got a huge case of I don't give a damn. Everyone's just wore out by the burnout of the lies and the fraud and the just disgusting level of corruption, which passes for governance in our day. Where's the sense of outrage? Where's the sense of his dignity in all this? Where's the sense of who says we get to begin our thinking with the premise that he doesn't exist? No. Where's the zeal? And the thing is, it's a heart matter. And if your heart ain't in it, you can try to fake it if you want. He's after your heart. And he loves us, not because we're good, but he loves us, and as he loves us, he changes us, and we become better. We become more like him, conformed supernaturally by the power of the Spirit as the Word is applied into our lives. So, 66 book, yeah, keep it. Read it, yeah. Kind of ponder it, yeah. But it's by the power of the Spirit, and by the power of the Spirit, what is being proclaimed? Jesus of Nazareth, risen, glorious, and coming soon. His kingdom still expanding, but the door is closing soon. There comes a day when grace and mercy cease on earth. This is a period where we're able to come in under a shelter, the only shelter available, which can withstand the blow from on high. Judgment is the theme, and gospel is the good news of release in light of what we deserve. Not some nice guy who just loves us because he just has to. No, he designed these moments, these days of our lives, to bring us back to our senses, to bring us back to a sense of the real world and the things that really matter. So strive to be zealous for He. I just made that up. And hey, go get yourself a ball game to watch today. And if you don't like to watch baseball, well, I'll pray for you. Have a good day and bye bye. Don't let him get you down.